The war room smelled like burnt circuits and regret. Commander Thalix stood there, all 6 of his appendages crossed, staring at the tactical display like it had just told him his mother was dating a human. Which, considering what I was about to report, might have been less shocking. "So," he said, his voice dripping with the kind of patience you develop right before you throw someone out an airlock. "You are telling me that an entire battalion, our entire forward battalion, has simply vanished." I nodded. "My name is Varric, by the way. Junior Intelligence Officer, 3rd Fleet, Galactic Coalition Forces. And yes, before you ask, I knew this job was going to suck. I just did not think it would suck this badly." "Not just vanished, sir," I corrected, "because apparently I have a death wish." "They vanished along with the human platoon they were engaging." Thalix's eye stalk swiveled toward me with the kind of focus that usually precedes violence. "Explain." "Well, I pulled up the tactical feed. 48 hours ago, our forward scouts detected a small human element, roughly 35 soldiers, setting up a defensive position in Sector 7. The mountain pass near the abandoned mining colony." "I know where Sector 7 is, Varric." "Right. Yes, of course, sir." I cleared my throat, which is harder than it sounds when you have 3 of them. Battalion Commander Zorthan decided this was an excellent opportunity to, and I quote, "crush the pink skins before breakfast." Thalix groaned. "Zorthan is an idiot." "Was an idiot, sir." Past tense, probably. The commander's scales rippled, a Kethrani expression that roughly translates to extreme irritation mixed with the beginnings of a migraine. "Continue." I tapped the holographic display. Zorthan deployed 800 troops. Full battle configuration. Heavy armor, aerial support, artillery. The works. Against 35 humans. 800 against 35. Thalix repeated it slowly, like he was trying to figure out where the math would go wrong. Spoiler alert, everywhere. "Yes, sir." He surrounded their position at dawn. Demanded their surrender. The humans, I checked my notes. The humans replied with a message that our translators flagged as, quote, extremely vulgar suggestion involving anatomically impossible acts, and a suggestion that Zorthan perform intimate relations with his own waste elimination system. Thalix made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a dying engine. "Sounds like humans." "Indeed, sir." So Zorthan, being Zorthan, ordered a full assault. Artillery barrage first. 40 minutes of sustained fire. Enough ordnance to level a city block. Then the ground forces moved in. I pulled up the aerial reconnaissance footage. Grainy, but clear enough. You could see our troops advancing, professional, organized exactly by the book. The human position was obscured by smoke and debris, but the thermal readings showed they were still there, still moving, still somehow not dead. "This is where it gets weird," I said. "It was not already weird?" "Sir, this is where it gets weird, even by human standards." I fast-forwarded the footage. Our troops entered the perimeter. The initial reports indicated light resistance. Some small arms fire, nothing significant. Then, exactly 14 minutes after breach, all communication stopped. The display showed the last clear image. Our soldiers, hundreds of them, moving through the smoke and rubble. Then, nothing. Static. Dead air. "Equipment malfunction?" Thalix asked, but he did not sound hopeful. "That is what we thought. We sent a reconnaissance drone. It arrived on site 2 hours later. I pulled up the drone footage, and this is where my job went from bad to nightmare fuel. This is what it found. The screen showed the mountain pass. Empty. Completely, utterly, impossibly empty. No bodies. No equipment. No wreckage. No blood. No signs of battle beyond the initial artillery craters. Just nothing. 800 Kethrani soldiers and 35 humans, gone, vanished. Vanished. Poofed out of existence like a magician's trick, except magicians usually leave behind the smell of cheap cologne and broken dreams, and this just smelled like dust and questions. Thalix was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice had lost all its sarcasm. "That is not possible." "And yet," I said, gesturing at the empty screen, "bodies do not just disappear. Equipment does not just disappear. 800 soldiers do not just—" He trailed off, looking at the footage again, like maybe he missed something. "We all did that. Watched it over and over, looking for the trick, the explanation, anything. We sent ground teams. Full forensic sweep. They found traces, scorch marks, shell casings, some blood, both human and Kethrani. But not enough. Not nearly enough. The amount of biological matter detected would account for maybe 10 casualties. Total. 10, Thalix repeated flatly. "Yes, sir, 10. Out of 835 beings. The math, as you might imagine, does not math." The commander sat down heavily. "Kethrani do not sit often. It is usually a sign we have given up on life." "Theories?" I had been dreading this part. "We have several. None of them are good." "Give me the least insane one." "The least insane theory," I said slowly, "is that the humans have developed some kind of mass teleportation technology and used it to transport our entire battalion to an unknown location, presumably for interrogation or imprisonment." Thalix stared at me. "And the most insane theory?" "The humans opened a portal to another dimension and everyone fell through." "Those are both insane." "Yes, sir. That is why I said none of them are good." He rubbed his eye stalks, a gesture I had only seen him do twice before, once when his mate left him, and once when he accidentally ate spoiled Threxian paste. "What do the humans say?" "That is the other problem, sir. We do not know." "You do not know?" "The human military denies any knowledge of the incident. They claim they have no record of any platoon in that sector. They say their nearest forces were 200 kilometers away. They suggested, and again I am quoting here, that we check our own competence before accusing them of fairy tale nonsense." "Fairy tale nonsense," Thalix repeated, his voice dangerously quiet. "Their words, sir, not mine. I would never call losing an entire battalion nonsense. Tragic, embarrassing, career-ending, yes, but not nonsense." He looked at me like he was calculating whether throwing me out an airlock would make him feel better. Probably it would, but paperwork is a pain. "Is there any evidence linking humans to the disappearance?" I pulled up another file. Circumstantial, at best. 3 days before the incident, our intelligence intercepted some unusual human communications. Coded. But our cryptographers managed to decode fragments. References to something called Operation Mousetrap. References to experimental tactics. And one message that simply said, "Come and take them." "Come and take them," Thalix said. "That is a historical human reference. Ancient Earth. Spartans, I think. Means they have no intention of surrendering." "Yes, sir." Stirring, defiant, completely impractical against modern warfare, which is why it is concerning that they said it anyway. He stood up, beginning to pace. "Let me see if I understand this correctly. A small human force, outnumbered 20 to 1, somehow made our entire battalion disappear. No bodies, no prisoners, no evidence, just gone. And the human government says they know nothing about it." "That is the situation, sir. In a very uncomfortable nutshell. And what does Fleet Command want me to do about this?" I pulled up the last document, the one I had been avoiding. Fleet Command wants answers. They want to know if this was an isolated incident or a new human capability. They want to know if we need to revise our entire strategic assessment of human military capacity. And... I paused. "And?" "And they want to know if we should be afraid." Thalix laughed. It was not a happy laugh. "Of course we should be afraid. We have been afraid of humans since first contact. They are insane. They turn everything into weapons. They pack bond with predators. They eat poison for fun. They look at a perfectly good planet and think, you know what this needs? More explosions. Here is the appropriate response to humans. Yes, sir. But this is different. This is not humans being crazy. This is humans doing something we cannot explain. We cannot predict, cannot counter. That is a different kind of fear. He was quiet for a moment, looking at the empty screen, the empty battlefield, the empty space where an entire battalion used to be. Tell me about the platoon. The human one. What do we know about them? I pulled up what little intelligence we had. Not much. They were designated as Ranger Unit Talon, specialization unknown, no significant combat record, led by Captain Marcus Brennan, age 32, prior service in Earth's northern territories, multiple commendations for, and this is interesting, unconventional warfare. Unconventional, Thalix said. Of course, because conventional warfare with humans was not horrifying enough. According to his file, Captain Brennan wrote his thesis at Military Academy on asymmetric engagement theory, specifically how a smaller force can neutralize a larger one through psychological manipulation and terrain exploitation. And we sent 800 soldiers after him. Yes, sir, we did. Thalix pulled up Brennan's photo. Human, male. Unremarkable features except for the eyes. Humans have this thing with their eyes. They smile with their mouths, but their eyes tell you what they are really thinking. Brennan was not smiling in the photo, but his eyes were, like he knew a joke the rest of the universe had not figured out yet. I hate him already, Thalix muttered. Sir? Look at him. He knows something. That expression. That insufferable human expression that says, I know exactly how this is going to end and you are not going to like it. I looked at the photo again. Yeah, he was right. There was something about Brennan's face that made you want to punch it and also run away screaming. Preferably both. We need more information, Thalix decided. Contact our intelligence assets on Earth. I want everything on Ranger Unit Talon. Personnel files, training records, psychological profiles, what they eat for breakfast, what their favorite colors are. Everything. Sir, human operational security is quite good. Our assets have limited access to active military units. Then find someone who will talk. Humans love to talk. Find a journalist, a blogger, a bartender, someone. There has to be someone who knows what these Rangers were doing in Sector 7. Yes, sir. I will get on it immediately. I started to leave, then paused. Sir? What do we tell the families? Of the battalion? Thalix's scales went gray, the Kithrani equivalent of going pale. The families. 800 soldiers. They all have families. They are going to ask questions. They are going to want answers. What do we tell them? He was quiet for a long time. Too long. Tell them their loved ones are missing in action. Tell them we are doing everything we can to locate them. Tell them we have not given up hope. Even though we have no idea where they are or if they are even alive, especially because of that. Hope is all we can give them right now. Hope and prayers and the promise that we will find out what happened. I nodded. It was a terrible answer, but it was the only one we had. Understood, sir. As I reached the door, Thalix called out. Varric? Sir? Yes. If this was the humans, if they did this somehow, what do you think their message is? Why make our soldiers disappear instead of just killing them? I had thought about this. Too much. Late at night when sleep would not come. I think, sir, they are telling us that they can do worse than kill us. They can make us vanish. They can erase us, like we never existed at all. That is scarier than death, sir. That is something else entirely. Thalix nodded slowly. Yes, it is. Dismissed. I left him there, standing in the war room, staring at the empty screen, trying to solve a puzzle with no pieces. Outside, the fleet hummed with activity. Thousands of beings going about their duties, unaware that somewhere out there, an entire battalion had just stopped existing, and nobody knew why. 2 days later, I got my first lead. An encrypted message from one of our intelligence assets on Earth. A mid-level bureaucrat in the human supply chain, someone who processed equipment requisitions. They had something. Something about Ranger Unit Talon. Something that made them nervous enough to risk contact. I met Thalix in his office. Private. Secure. The kind of meeting where if someone walked in without knocking, they would mysteriously transfer to waste management duty on the other side of the galaxy. "What did you find?" he asked immediately. "Sir, our assets sent through some requisition records. Ranger Unit Talon requested some unusual equipment in the weeks before the incident." To define unusual. I pulled up the list. 40 kilometers of high-tensile cable, 3,000 kilograms of industrial adhesive, portable holographic emitters, sound-dampening panels, motion sensors. And I paused, because this one was weird even by human standards. 450 inflatable decoys. Thalix blinked. All three eyes. Inflatable decoys. "Yes, sir, human-shaped, full-size, with thermal signatures that mimic body heat." "Why would they need inflatable humans?" "That, sir, is an excellent question. One I do not have a good answer for. But it gets stranger. They also requisitioned mining explosives, a lot of them. Enough to demolish a small mountain." "They were at an abandoned mining colony," Thalix said slowly. "Thinking. Mountains. Mines. Underground." "Yes, sir. I believe I see where you are going with this." "They set a trap." The whole thing was a trap. The defensive position. The provocative message. Everything. They wanted Zorthan to attack. I nodded. "That is my assessment as well. They knew we would send overwhelming force. They counted on it." And then I gestured vaguely at nothing, because how do you gesture at disappearing an entire battalion? They used the mines, the cable, the adhesive. They rigged the entire area somehow. Made our soldiers think they were in one place when they were actually somewhere else. Holographic deception. That explains some of it, sir, but not all. Even if they tricked our soldiers into the mines, even if they collapsed the tunnels, there would be bodies, wreckage, evidence. We scanned those mountains. Penetrating radar. Seismic sensors. There is nothing down there. Thalix frowned. "Then where are they?" "I do not know, sir. But I think the humans do not want us to know. I think that is the whole point. They are not trying to win. They are trying to terrify us, to make us second-guess every engagement, to make us wonder if the next time we send troops after them, those troops will come back." He thought about this. "It is working." "Yes, sir. It very much is." The next piece of the puzzle came from an unexpected source. A Kethrani merchant captain, civilian, running trade routes through human space. He had heard something. Bar talk on a station near Mars. Humans drinking. Soldiers off duty. Celebrating. They were celebrating. What were they celebrating? Thalix demanded when I briefed him. According to the merchant, they were toasting something called the Vanishing Act. He kept saying Brennan did it. The mad genius actually pulled it off. Over and over. Laughing. Buying drinks for the whole bar. Did the merchant get details? No, sir. But he said one of the humans, quite drunk, mentioned something about the greatest magic trick in military history. Said they would be teaching it at academies for centuries. Then someone else told him to shut up, and they stopped talking. Thalix slammed a manipulator on his desk. Magic trick. They keep calling it that, like it is entertainment. To humans, sir, war often is. They gamify it, turn it into sport, make jokes about death. It is how they cope with the horror, by making it absurd. Well, I am not laughing. Neither am I, sir. But the humans are, and that should concern us. He pulled up the tactical map again, at the empty battlefield. The ghost zone where 800 soldiers used to be. We need to send another team. Investigate the site again. Early. I do not care if we have to dig up every cubic meter of dirt and rock. We need answers. Sir, with respect, what if that is what they want? What if they are waiting for us to send another force? What if this is all part of the trap? Thalix stopped, looked at me. You think they are still there? I think we should proceed as if they might be. Humans are patient when they want to be. And Captain Brennan, according to his file, is very patient. So what do you suggest? Send drones. Lots of them. Saturate the area. Map every centimeter. Use every sensor we have. But do not send living beings. Not yet. Not until we know what we are walking into. It was good advice. Thalix took it. We spent a week scanning Sector 7 with every piece of technology we had. Deep ground radar, electromagnetic sensors, thermal imaging, chemical sniffers. We found precisely nothing. Some old mining tunnels, some natural caves, all empty, all abandoned, no signs of life, no signs of recent activity beyond our own artillery barrage. It was like the whole battalion had been absorbed into the mountain itself. On day 8, one of our deep penetration drones found something. Not in the mountains. Under them. Way under them. A cavity. Large. Artificial. Too regular to be natural. And old. Very old. Predating human colonization by centuries. What is it? Thalix asked, staring at the scan. Unknown, sir. The mining colony was built over an archaeological site. Apparently humans found some kind of ancient structure buried here. Alien. Predating all known species in this sector. They were excavating it before the war started, then abandoned the project. And Brennan knew about this? His file indicates he studied xenoarchaeology as an elective. It is possible he researched the site. Knew it was there. Thalix pulled up imagery of the structure. Massive. Geometric. Clearly built by someone, something, with advanced technology. You think he used it somehow? I think, sir, that we are missing a very important piece of this puzzle. And that piece is currently located under several thousand tons of rock in a structure we do not understand, built by a species we do not know, for a purpose we cannot fathom. That, Thalix said quietly, is not reassuring. No, sir, it is really not. We were still arguing about whether to send a manned expedition when the message arrived. Human military communication. Official channels. Addressed specifically to Commander Thalix, from Captain Marcus Brennan. The message was short, polite, completely terrifying. It said, Dear Commander Thalix, thank you for your patience. Your battalion is quite comfortable, all things considered. They have food, water, and adequate shelter. Most are unharmed. Some requested medical attention, which we have provided. They are being treated in accordance with all relevant conventions regarding prisoners of war. If you would like to negotiate their return, please contact us through the standard diplomatic channels. We look forward to productive discussions. Respectfully, Captain Marcus Brennan, Ranger Unit Talon. P.S. Next time, maybe send fewer soldiers. 800 was really overkill. 30 would have sufficed. But we appreciate the enthusiasm. Thalix read it 3 times. Then he looked at me. They are alive. Yes, sir. Apparently. He captured 800 Kethrani with 35 humans. Yes, sir, he did. And he is being smug about it. Extremely smug, sir. That postscript is particularly offensive. Thalix sat down. Hard. How? I have absolutely no idea, sir, but I suspect we are about to find out. And I suspect we are not going to like the answer. He was right about that. We really did not like the answer. But that is a story for another time. Another briefing. Another moment when I would stand in a war room and explain to my superior officer how humans had once again done something impossible, infuriating, and somehow technically legal under the rules of war. For now, I just stood there, watching Thalix process the impossible and wondering how much worse this could possibly get. Spoiler alert, it could get much, much worse. But I did not know that yet. None of us did. We were about to find out. The diplomatic negotiations started 3 days after Brennan's message arrived. 3 days of Fleet Command losing their collective minds, 3 days of politicians yelling at military officers, and 3 days of me not sleeping because apparently being the guy who discovered the missing battalion meant I got to be present for every excruciating moment of what came next. The negotiations took place on neutral ground, a space station in the buffer zone between human and coalition territory. Very official, very formal, very awkward. Because how do you negotiate the return of 800 soldiers who, by all rights, should not have been captured in the first place? Commander Thalix led our delegation. I was there as his aide, which meant I got to carry files and look miserable. The humans sent a team of 3, 2 diplomats in suits that probably cost more than my annual salary, and Captain Marcus Brennan himself, wearing his uniform, and that same insufferable smile from his personnel photo. He looked exactly like someone who had just pulled off the greatest military magic trick in recorded history and knew it. "Commander Thalix," Brennan said, standing as we entered the conference room. His voice was pleasant. Friendly even. Like we were old pals meeting for drinks instead of enemies negotiating prisoner exchange. "Thank you for coming. I appreciate your willingness to discuss this matter." Thalix's scales rippled purple. Anger, barely controlled. "Captain Brennan, I would say it is a pleasure, but we both know I would be lying." Brennan's smile widened. "Fair enough. Shall we sit?" We sat. The humans on one side, US on the other, a table between us that felt about 1,000 kilometers too narrow. One of the human diplomats, a woman named Torres, opened a data pad and began with the formalities. Prisoner counts, injury reports, conditions of internment, all very proper and by the book. 803 Kethrani. All accounted for. 17 minor injuries. 2 moderate. 0 fatalities. They had medical documentation, photos, even statements from some of the prisoners confirming their treatment. It was professional, thorough, completely humiliating. Before we discussed terms for repatriation, Torres said, "We need to address the incident itself. The coalition military engaged in an unprovoked assault on a lawfully positioned human military unit. This constitutes a violation of the current ceasefire agreement and multiple interstellar conventions." Thalix's eye stalks twitched. "Unprovoked? Your forces were in a contested sector. Your presence was itself a provocation. Sector 7 was ceded to human administration under the Treaty of Proxima," Torres replied smoothly, pulling up documents. "Your forces entered human territory, surrounded our personnel, and demanded surrender. When our soldiers declined, you initiated a full-scale attack. These are the facts, Commander. Your soldiers were not supposed to be there," Thalix argued, but his voice had lost its edge. We both knew she was right. Zorthan had screwed up, attacked first, asked questions never. Brennan leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "Commander, if I may, let us skip the legal posturing. You want your soldiers back. We want to return them. But we also want to ensure this does not happen again. So here is what we propose." He slid a data pad across the table. Thalix read it. His scales went from purple to gray to almost white. "This is extortion. This is restitution," Torres corrected, "for unprovoked attack, for attempted massacre, for violating sovereign human territory. We are being quite reasonable, actually." Thalix looked at me. I looked at the document. Medical expenses, equipment replacement, transportation costs, formal apology, reparations for emotional distress. The total was astronomical. Not bankrupt the coalition astronomical, but definitely going to make some accountants cry astronomical. "And if we refuse?" Thalix asked quietly. Brennan shrugged. "Then your soldiers remain our guests. indefinitely. We will continue to treat them well, of course, in full compliance with all conventions. But they will not be going home until we reach an agreement. That is hostage-taking. That is how prisoner exchange works, Commander. You have done this before. You know the process. Thalix was quiet for a long moment. Then he said the words I had been dreading. I want to know how you did it. Brennan and Torres exchanged glances. Some unspoken communication. Then Brennan nodded. All right. I suppose you have earned that much. It is not classified anymore anyway. Fleet Command approved disclosure as part of the negotiation process. He pulled up a holographic display. Sector 7. The mountain pass. The abandoned mining colony. You already figured out some of it, but the trap, the bait. We knew you would send overwhelming force. Humans have a reputation. You all think we are easy to kill if you just bring enough soldiers? Which fair we are kind of squishy. But we are also really sneaky. The hologram zoomed in on the defensive position. This is what your scouts saw. 35 Rangers, defensive fortifications, standard deployment, everything by the book. Except he smiled. It was all fake, every bit of it. Those were not Rangers. Those were the inflatable decoys. 450 of them, I said, remembering the requisition list. Very good. Someone did their homework. Yes, we set up decoys throughout the position. Thermal generators to mimic body heat. Speakers for audio. Holographic emitters for the visual details. We even fired some weapons remotely to make it look like real soldiers were shooting back. Your scouts never got close enough to spot the difference. Thalix's voice was very quiet. Where were your actual soldiers? Already inside the mountain. In the archaeological site. We had been preparing it for weeks. The ancient structure down there, it is remarkable. Some kind of stasis facility. Built by a species that vanished millions of years ago. The humans who were excavating it before the war figured out some of its functions. Not all, but enough. He pulled up schematics. The structure was enormous. Chambers. Corridors. Technology that made our best equipment look like stone tools. When your artillery barrage started, we activated the surface defenses. Automated systems. Made it look like we were taking casualties, falling back, getting desperate. Meanwhile, your commander was getting exactly what he expected. Light resistance. Easy victory. He sent his troops in. The hologram showed the Kithrani advance. Hundreds of soldiers moving into the kill zone. We used the holographic emitters to guide your forces. Made them think they were chasing fleeing humans. Led them right where we wanted them. The old mining tunnels. We had reinforced the structural supports. Made sure they would hold until everyone was inside. 800 soldiers, Thalix said. You led 800 soldiers underground. More like 760 actually entered the tunnel complex. The rest were positioned outside as reserves. We dealt with them separately. But yes, the bulk of your force. We herded them through specific passages, using sound, light, tactical distractions. Humans are very good at misdirection, Commander. We have been doing it to each other for thousands of years. Applying it to aliens is not that different. Torres took over. Once your forces were in position, Ranger Unit Talon collapsed the entrance tunnels. Not all of them. Just enough to make your soldiers think they were trapped. Then Captain Brennan made contact. Made contact? I asked. Brennan grinned. I walked up to the forward elements, hands up, no weapons, and introduced myself. Very polite. Very friendly. I explained their situation. Trapped underground. Limited air supply. Or so they thought. No communication with the surface. No reinforcements coming. And then I offered them a choice. Surrender now, be treated well. Go home eventually. Or we could wait. See how long their supplies lasted. See who got more desperate first. They could have killed you, Thalix said. They could have tried. but I had 34 Rangers positioned throughout the tunnel system, all with clear lines of fire, all very motivated to keep me alive. Plus, your soldiers are professionals. They understood the math. They were in a tactical nightmare, unknown terrain, potential ambush at every turn, no support. They made the smart choice. They surrendered. All of them? I could not believe it. All 800 just gave up? Not immediately. It took some convincing. Some of the officers wanted to fight their way out. We let them try. Non-lethal response. Stun weapons. Tranquilizers. After the first few attempts failed, the rest saw reason. By the end of day 1, we had full cooperation. Torres pulled up more documentation. The ancient facility has stasis chambers, designed for long-term preservation of biological specimens. We were able to adapt them for temporary containment. Your soldiers spent most of the past few weeks in induced sleep, comfortable, safe, dreaming, hopefully, of better tactical decisions. Thalix looked like someone had hit him with a planet. You put them in stasis. It was the humane option. Keeping 800 prisoners awake and fed and occupied would have been a logistical nightmare. This way, they just took a long nap, woke up when we were ready to negotiate. No stress, no trauma, just whoosh, time skip. That is, Thalix struggled for words. That is insane. But that is human, Commander. We look at ancient alien technology and think, hey, maybe we can use this to win a war. Your people would have studied it for decades, cataloged it, filed reports. We just plugged it in and started pushing buttons. You could have killed them all. If the technology malfunctioned. Brennan's smile faded. His voice became serious. Commander, we took every precaution. We had human medics monitoring every prisoner. We tested the stasis systems extensively before using them. We would not have risked their lives unnecessarily. Whatever you think of us, we are not monsters. We are soldiers. We follow rules. Sometimes creatively. But we follow them. There was a long silence. Thalix stared at the holographic display, at the mountain, at the trap, at the impossible thing that had happened. Finally, he spoke. The reserves. The 240 soldiers outside the tunnels. What happened to them? Ah, those? That was simpler. We had positioned snipers in the surrounding peaks, used tranquilizer rounds, picked them off one by one, the ones who got away. We tracked using drones, rounded them up over the next 6 hours. Nobody died. Nobody even got seriously hurt. Just a lot of very embarrassed Kethrani soldiers waking up in zip ties wondering what happened. Torres added, we also recovered your communications equipment, your codes, your tactical databases, all of which we have since returned, mind you. We are not interested in your secrets. We just wanted to make a point. And what point is that? Thalix asked bitterly. Brennan leaned back in his chair. That maybe, just maybe, you should stop underestimating humans. We are not the easy target you think we are. We do not fight fair. We do not play by your rules. And we really do not like being told we are going to be crushed before breakfast. Send 800 soldiers against 35 of us, and we will find a way to capture all 800. That is not a threat, Commander. That is a promise. Thalix was quiet for a very long time, and then, slowly, he reached across the table, extended a manipulator. Brennan looked surprised, but he reached out and shook it. A human gesture of agreement, of respect. Your terms are acceptable, Thalix said. We will pay the reparations, issue the formal apology, arrange transport for the prisoners. And we will make sure every commander in the coalition fleet knows what happened here. Not as a humiliation, but as a lesson. What lesson is that? Torres asked. That humans are terrifying, I said, and everyone turned to look at me. I had not meant to speak out loud, but there it was. The truth. Plain and simple. You are absolutely terrifying. You turn everything into a weapon. You see problems as opportunities. You take risks that would make any sane species run screaming. And somehow you make it work. That is the lesson. That is what we need to learn. Brennan laughed. Actually laughed. You know what, Varric? I like you. You get it. Most species see us as crazy and stop there. You see us as crazy and realize that is actually the dangerous part. The negotiations wrapped up quickly after that. Details, logistics, timelines, all very boring, all very necessary. By the end of the day, we had an agreement. The prisoners would be returned within the week. The reparations would be paid over 6 months. The formal apology would be delivered by someone much more important than Thalix, someone who could grovel diplomatically. As we were leaving, Brennan caught my arm. Hey, Varric, quick question. Yes, Captain? Your report. The one you wrote for Fleet Command about how we might have teleported your battalion or opened a portal to another dimension. That was you covering all the possibilities, right? Not you actually thinking we could do that? I looked at him. At his smile. At his eyes that knew too much. At this point, Captain, I would not be surprised if you told me humans could do both those things. You already did the impossible. Why stop there? He laughed again. Fair point. But no teleportation. No dimension portals. Just good old-fashioned human ingenuity, patience, and a willingness to use ancient alien technology without reading the instruction manual first. That is our secret weapon. Controlled recklessness. Controlled recklessness, I repeated. That should be your species' motto. It basically is. Take care, Varric. Try not to send any more battalions after small human units. It never ends well. I will keep that in mind, Captain. The prisoner exchange happened at the same station. 1 week later, we watched as 800 Kithrani soldiers shuffled off human transport ships. They looked healthy, well-fed, rested, also deeply, profoundly embarrassed. Which, honestly, was worse than if they had been injured. Injuries heal. Embarrassment lasts forever. Battalion Commander Zorthan was not among them. He had apparently suffered a stress-induced medical episode during capture and had been given extended medical leave, which was a polite way of saying he had a complete breakdown and was never commanding anything ever again. His replacement was a much more cautious officer, the kind who actually reads intelligence reports before attacking. Thalix and I stood in the observation deck, watching the return. He had been quiet since the negotiations. Thoughtful. Planning. Varric, he said finally, I need you to do something for me. Sir? I need you to compile everything we learned, every detail, every tactic, every trick the humans used, and then I need you to present it to Fleet Command. Make them understand that we have been approaching this war all wrong. Sir, with respect, they are not going to like hearing that. I do not care if they like it. They need to hear it. We have been treating humans like they are just another species, another enemy to overwhelm with superior numbers and firepower. But they are not. They are something new, something we have never faced before. And if we do not adapt, if we do not learn, then the next time we engage them, it will not be 800 soldiers in stasis chambers. It will be 8,000 or 80,000, our entire fleets just vanishing. I thought about that, about Brennan and his rangers, about the trap, about the ancient technology and the inflatable decoys and the sheer audacity of capturing 20 times your number with nothing but cleverness and alien artifacts. You think they could do it again? Larger scale? I think humans are creative problem solvers with no sense of self-preservation and access to an entire galaxy full of ancient alien mysteries. Yes, Varric, I think they could absolutely do it again. And I think they will keep doing it, finding new ways to terrify us, until we either learn to respect them or they make us extinct. He was right. Of course he was right. I had seen the evidence. lived through the briefings, stood across from Brennan, and felt that peculiar mix of fear and admiration that humans inspire. "I will write the report, sir. I will make them understand." "Good, because we cannot afford another Sector 7. We cannot afford to keep underestimating them. The humans have been playing nice so far, mostly, but they are still holding back. I can feel it. They have not shown us everything they can do. And I really do not want to see what happens when they stop being polite and start being creative." The last of the prisoners disembarked. Medical teams checked them over. Counselors stood ready to help with the psychological impact. Families waited in another section, ready for reunions. It should have been a happy moment, a victory, getting everyone back alive. But it did not feel like victory. It felt like a warning. 3 months later, my report was complete. 30,000 words, detailed analysis, tactical breakdowns, psychological profiles, everything. I presented it to a room full of admirals and generals and politicians who did not want to hear it. They listened anyway. Because they had to. Because Sector 7 had scared them, really scared them. Not just the loss, the method, the precision. The fact that humans had turned a hopeless situation into a complete victory without killing anyone. That was scarier than if they had massacred the whole battalion. At least massacre is predictable. You can plan for it, prepare for it. But this was something else. By the end of my presentation, the room was silent. One admiral, an old veteran with scars from 3 wars, finally spoke. "So what you are telling us is that we cannot beat the humans?" "No, sir," I replied. "What I am telling you is that we cannot beat them the way we have been trying to beat them. Overwhelming force does not work when they can turn that force against us. Superior technology does not work when they can steal or adapt or repurpose ancient alien technology faster than we can study it. Traditional tactics do not work when they throw out the rules and invent new ones on the fly." "Then, how do we win?" another admiral asked. "We do not," I said simply. "We negotiate. We compromise. We find common ground. We make peace. Because the alternative is not losing soldiers. It is losing our minds trying to predict what humans will do next. And that is a war we cannot win." They did not like that answer. But 3 weeks later, peace talks began in earnest. Real talks. Serious ones. With the goal of actually ending the war instead of just pausing it for dramatic effect. The talks took months. Lots of arguing. Lots of posturing. Lots of diplomats earning their salaries. But eventually, slowly, painfully, we reached an agreement. Orders were drawn. Resources were allocated. Reparations were settled. And most importantly, both sides agreed to a mutual defense pact. Because while we might not be able to beat humans, we could certainly fight alongside them. And that was almost as terrifying, but in a more productive way. Captain Brennan received a promotion. For commander now, they gave him a medal, several medals, and his own training program. He now teaches unconventional warfare to the next generation of human soldiers, and making them even more dangerous, even more creative, even more impossible. I hear his courses are extremely popular, also extremely difficult, also extremely likely to give enemy commanders stress-induced medical episodes. Alex got promoted too. Admiral now, in charge of Coalition Special Operations. He immediately requested an exchange program with human forces, learning from them, training with them, understanding how they think. He says it is the only way to stay relevant in modern warfare. I personally think he just enjoys the challenge. Or maybe he has developed some kind of stress addiction. It is hard to tell with him. As for me, I am still junior intelligence officer, still briefing senior commanders, still explaining how humans keep doing impossible things. But now I do it with a better understanding, a deeper respect, and a healthy fear that keeps me humble. Because here is what I learned from Sector 7, from Brennan and his Rangers, from 800 missing soldiers who turned out to be sleeping peacefully in ancient alien pods. The lesson that every species in this galaxy needs to understand. Humans are not special because they are strong. They are not special because they are smart. They are special because they refuse to accept that anything is impossible. You tell them something cannot be done, and they hear that as a challenge. It's a dare, an invitation to prove you wrong. You tell them they cannot capture 800 soldiers with 35. They do it and then write a training manual about it. You tell them they cannot use ancient alien technology without decades of study. They plug it in and start experimenting. You tell them they cannot win a war against superior numbers and firepower. They invent new rules, new tactics, new ways of fighting that make your advantages irrelevant. That is what makes humans terrifying, not their weapons, not their technology, not even their creativity. It is their absolute refusal to quit, to back down, to accept defeat. You can kill a human. That part is easy. They are fragile, squishy, vulnerable. But you cannot break their spirit. You cannot make them give up. And you definitely cannot make them stop coming up with new and horrifying ways to surprise you. So if there is a lesson from all this, from the day an entire battalion vanished and then turned up alive and well and deeply embarrassed, it is this: do not underestimate humans. Do not provoke them unnecessarily. And for the love of all that is sacred in this universe, do not send 800 soldiers to crush 35 of them before breakfast, because they will capture all 800. And then they will send you a polite note about it, with a postscript making fun of your tactical choices. And you will never, ever live it down. Trust me. I was there. I wrote the reports. I watched it happen. And I still sometimes wake up at night wondering what else humans are capable of. What other tricks they have up their sleeves. What other impossibilities they are going to make possible. The universe is a strange place, full of wonders and mysteries and species trying to coexist. But nothing, absolutely nothing, is stranger than humans. And that, ladies and gentlemen, and various other configurations of sentient beings, is a fact you can take to the bank, or the stasis chamber, whichever you prefer. Me? I prefer to stay on the human's good side. It is safer that way, and significantly less embarrassing.